Y'all remember that time I had to pull a dent out of Tuesday's bedside? Well, it's time to fix it with a high clearance rear bumper. I looked at all the players in the space but stumbled across one from At The Helm Fabrication. They specialize in 2nd, 3rd, and 4th gen Tacomas and even have a couple things for the Jeep Liberty. Nice. I'll leave the links below, but ATHFab.com is the website, so definitely go check them out. Anyway, grab a cheap cold one or 3 because this is the long install video for the bumper. Welcome to Boondock Taberlock. This is going to be fun. So let me show you what we ended up getting. Obviously the high clearance bumper, but what it comes with is a single swing out. Now normally that would be over there and that would be over there because the swing out is off of the passenger side. I wanted to swing out off the driver's side because of the way I have my drawers set up. Kitchen's on this side, it'll slide out. I don't want that in the way. I'm putting an awning on the passenger side as well, so everything will be kind of off the passenger side. Didn't want this getting in the way when the awning was out and we were in the back of the truck, and this would basically be swung out in the middle of the awning. So we did it with the left hand side and swung out, driver's side swung out, and that way it's not in the way. So all right, so the first thing we got to do is get this thing painted. I've hung it in my paint booth, which is basically my tool shed, with some straps from the rafters. I have cleaned and prepped the whole bumper. As with the topper, we're going to do 2 stages of paint. Although on this one, stage 1 is chassis and grille paint. It's got a picture of a frame and what I think is an axle, so it's got to be good. And then we're going to do the bed liner again. This is just to give it a little texture, make it look a little better, you know, kind of hide all the parts where they're going to drip and all that. Plus it's going to get beat up, so I'd rather be able to just overspray it with some of the bed liner when it does get scratched. Okay, so I got the bumper all painted along with the swing arm. I did tape off where the bearings go and where the spare tire is going to mount. Let's get that in focus right there. I'll take that off when I put it up. Now, the thing that's great about the way I painted this was, since these kind of got moved around and we're kind of banging around in the shed, you can see right there, there's a little spot that kind of wore off because it probably got moved when it wasn't dry all the way. I can just take a can of paint and spray it, and I don't have to worry about color matching anything because it's all the same aerosol can bed liner, which is going to be perfect for crap like this. Okay, so when you order it from ATH Fab, it comes with bearings and bags of bolts and nuts and washers that are labeled, so you know this is for the latch and the latch tab, this is for the license plate lights, this is for the camera and the bedside brackets. Got your bedside braces, your latch. They give you heat shrink connectors, 2 lights for the license plate, you know, hinge that goes up and down with magnets so it's not flopping around back there. Wire loom and wire for your camera and for your lights. This guy's thought of everything. And instructions with pictures, because we all don't like to read. Before we get started, and I'm in a bad spot because of a shadow. Well, I'll get closer. These are the tools that I used. A couple of them I only used once, just to make things a little bit easier. Alright, so let's start with sockets. You're going to need 17mm. Those are for the bolts that hold the bumper on. I had a 1/2-inch drive, 3/8 drive, and I also got a 17mm wrench. The reason I got the 3/8 drive was because once they were loose, this guy zipped them off really quick. You're also going to need 7/16, 10mm, and 1/2. And you'll need a 7/16 wrench, 1/2-inch wrench, Phillips screwdriver, flathead screwdriver for prying miscellaneous things, a couple extensions, fire for heat shrink, crescent wrench. I forget what I used that for, but I used that to tighten the latch the little lock latch. You'll need a drill, a 5/16 inch bit, 5/16 inch bit, a 1/4 inch bit. I use that to tie the fender flares in. You'll see that later. Some grease, some brake clean, rags, zip ties, a hammer. I would recommend a dead blow hammer. Some black paint. You'll see why. A straight edge, a multimeter you may or may not need. I used that just to make sure I was connecting into the right wires. Electrical tape, razor knife, wire strippers, crimpers, wire cutters, linesman pliers. I think I use those for some clips. A bigger hammer. I think I use that to kind of knock the old bumper off, but again, a dead blow might be better. A tape measure, Sharpie, blue tape to tape off where you're going to cut, a punch for holes, a cutoff wheel, and I used a flap disc to kind of make my cut and smooth it out a little bit. And then I use those guys over here, little push-in thing to attach the fender flares back to the body so they weren't flopping around. Make sure you print off the instructions. They have great instructions. There's pictures, very helpful. Other than that, that's kind of what you need. Oh, the two bigger sockets. So you're going to need I believe this is 1 1/8" for the long bolt that holds the swing arm on. I used this one here to punch in the seals around the bearings. Whether you got a seal set or just a bigger socket to get around there and punch that in, you'll see why I use that later on. But these are the tools you'll need. Let's get started. Alright, so the instructions say to start removing the license plate and then all the wire harnesses underneath. There should be clips for all those. Once I take a look down there, we'll see what they got to be. Okay, so we got the wire harness for all my little sensors. That goes along the thing. We've got the wire harness for the trailer lights. And it looks like that is for the, up there, that looks like that is for the license plate. Let's get them all disconnected because we're going to have to take those bolts out, and I just want to make sure that everything that's connected to this bumper side is disconnected from the truck itself, so then we can take it down. Let's get started. I'm just going to basically disconnect them and loosen the bolts. Side note, get the tire out of the way first. Alright, so now the spare tire's out of the way. There's this dangly bit, but we'll deal with that at some other point. So, definitely, you've got two connectors right here. You've got one here. This is your trailer lights, and it looks like the only other two are right here. I don't see any more that go down to the bumper. This looks like, hang up there. This comes over the top, goes over there. These are sensors. That all goes over here. It's gonna be your sensors. This comes down over here. That goes to your sensors. I believe my lights are also tied into that one, which should be here. Yep, that's lights. So it's really these two connections and this one here, and that should be it. And then we can start worrying about dropping this bumper. Gonna try and be careful because I don't want to damage any of these sensors, but you know, we'll see what happens. All right, so two connections, gray and white, gray and white, gray and black. And this actually comes out of the whole back end of that guy. So don't try to take this gray plastic thing off because that's just covering the wires. Ask me how I figured that out. So now that just pops out with these two little metal clips at your trailer connection. That'll go back in the new bumper. And now we're ready to loosen the bolts. The instructions tell you, let me get over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, both sides. Take these 4 out, loosen this one because the bumper actually slides onto that, and it also slides into a little hook in here. There's a pin. I don't know if you can see it or not. Once I get it down, I'll show you a little bit better. But that way you can do it yourself and you don't need somebody else. I'm probably going to get some help anyway, but we'll see what happens when I get this loose and unbolted and pulled out of here. Wish me luck. Okay, this is supposed to come up with a nice clean up and out. I'm going to use all back, no legs, with a nice jerking motion. Let's see. Oh, kind of. Where's it getting stuck? Alright, so they tell you to leave those bolts in the back, but they seem to kind of be stopping this from coming out of the way. Maybe because I'm doing it by myself, I don't know. I'm going to take them out and see if I can do it that way. It should still hang with the 2 pins. Let's see. This guy out of here. Now, I'm going to try and grab like on the side somewhere, because it's in there good. You got to kind of slide it straight out and kind of wiggle it. There's your side's almost out. My side's not. Lift up on your side. And set it down. So I guess I got to figure out how to get all the sensors out of there. They say you got to take the center plastic piece off, so I'm going to attempt to do that and kind of go from there. Alright, so it looks like it's these little clips here. Some people call them Christmas tree clips. I call them a pain in the ass. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then there's probably more things to take it off. We'll see. They tell you to save those little grommets. They just push in from the back, so we'll take all those out because those got to go in the new bumper. Those are the blind spot monitoring sensors. I've just got them unplugged. They work through plastic, like I've said before, so they're not going to do anything now, and there's no place to put them in the new bumper. So I just unplugged them. I guess we'll kind of tie that up and figure out how we can seal those in there, and I guess I'll see if they got to stay plugged in and mounted somewhere. I don't know. I'm not really sure. I guess we'll see which lights come on in the dashboard. Alright, so when taking the wire harness off, it's got all these little zip tie clips. I mean, they're all pretty easy to do. You just pinch them and push. Pinch and push. And they come out. Now it's time to cut out this dent. The instructions are actually very clear on where to cut and how much to cut, and they make it really easy for you to measure. They tell you to measure from right underneath this plastic piece on top of the bed. Mine happens to have bird shit on it. So we'll start there, and then you measure straight down to somewhere in here, and that's 20 3/4 inches. The second mark you're going to make is from the same spot up here next to, I assume, the T on the turd, and you're going to go down 21.5 inches, and right where that intersects, you're going to be straight down and you're going to make a mark there. You're going to draw a line across, and that's where you're going to cut. So let me make those marks, put on a piece of tape, draw a line, and I got to do that to both sides. Alright, so here's what I did. I measured it and marked it first, and then put the tape on, and then I'm going to measure it again and mark it again. And the way they want you to do it is, it's not like you don't got to sit here and, you know, try and eyeball it. They actually want you to hook it up in there and drape it over and actually pull it across the fender. So let me see if I can get a better angle for you. I'll show you what I mean. So what I mean when they want to put it against it, so right here by the T on the turd, you hold that up there, and then you let the tape measure follow the body line, and that's where you put your mark. So this one is supposed to be 21.5. So with this along the body, straight down, 21.5 is going to fall right there. And then same thing on this one. Bottom of inverted poop, let it fall, 20 3/4, which is right there. Then you take your straight edge and you mark a line. And then you start cutting, and this will be the first time I've ever cut on a body on any truck or vehicle for that matter. So wish me luck. Alright, now that I've double checked, quadruple checked, checked again, made sure it was right, I get to cut into a 2023 Tacoma with less than 13,000 miles on it. But it's got a big dent, so it's got to go. Wish me luck. That's an ugly, ugly, ugly cut. Oh, good thing I got stuff covered up. Well, let's get the rest of it off and then we'll kind of go from there. Just if I had any second thoughts, now's not the time to have them, huh? I am shaking. That was nerve-wracking, but now that it's done, I guess the other side shouldn't be so bad. See when we get that side done and we get ready to kind of clean this up and hang the bumper. Alright, so they got these brackets that will support your fender from flopping around. They go in the same place as this one did. 2 bolts up there, you save those. Those go there. Then you gotta drill a hole on the back side of your fender through it and attach it to that. I'm gonna do that, and I still got to clean up this line here quite a bit, so we'll get all that done and we'll see how it looks when I'm done. Well, the second side looks a whole lot better, but I cleaned it up with a flat disc, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape off both sides just like this and spray a little paint on there. I'm going to use the just black chassis paint because that's bare metal now and I don't want it to rust. So I'm going to get that painted, let that dry for a little bit, and we'll be back later. Alright, so now they got a little bit of black paint on there. They do have a cover. They have this little, same thing we use on the front bumper, that'll go on there. But first, we got to get those brackets, and those attach up in, let's get this to adjust, inside of the fender so it's not all floppy. We're going to go ahead and drill a hole. It says use a 5/16 inch drill bit, so we'll go ahead and drill that hole in there and then get that bolted in. All right, when you drill that hole, a little tip, don't go too far. It actually, be careful, because my drill bit caught on the sheet metal and actually pulled it through and popped it. So I had to be a little more careful. And this side, there's no hole, but the bracket is in there. It goes to the same brackets over there and hold your fender. What I'm gonna do right here is I'm gonna drill a hole and put one of those Christmas tree things, because this just flopping around I know is gonna get really annoying. So I'm gonna go ahead and put one of those in. I might even, if I can get one of those screws in there, I might do that, but I'll have to drill a hole and basically screw that in. Now it's a good thing I cut that in half and didn't try to run the full length, because it's really there's enough to go from fender flare and around and down. It doesn't go all the way down, but if you would have went all the way down, you wouldn't have had enough. So I'm gonna go put the other side on. It should come about the same spot, because I just cut the single piece that it gave me right in half. So both are on. Sorry for the light in your face. Let me see if I can block that out. Oh, and there. Trim's on. Trim's on. No more dent on this side. That's good. And now I need some help getting that beast up and on here. I need to phone a friend. And by phone a friend, I mean yell at my wife, but not yell at, just ask her to come help me. We'll be right back.
Because I think this bumper weighs more than I do.
It might. Alright, so pick it up. And then...
Yeah, but you want to pick it up and...
No, look where I am. Okay. This is where you need to be. So you can rotate it and lift that way. And then Slide it towards me. Up. I gotta go back. Fuck. Can you see where your bolt is?
Hold on.
He's gonna go way up.
Mine's gotta go up. Come on, mine.
Come on, mine. Okay. Let's see. Don't drop it on me. All right, it is, but you got to go push in here. Okay, right there, right there. Perfect, right there. Okay. Okay. All right, so one day, probably about 4 hours, the rear bumper is on. That's not including the swing out, obviously, because it's not on there, because we haven't put it on yet. We've got a dinner to go to, so we're running out of time. Tomorrow, we're going to put the wires on and put the swing out on, and we'll see how that goes. That should be pretty easy. Couple things from getting moved around the shed before it was put on. Got some bare metal there that I'm going to fix. I also, like I said, I got to put a thing in there to hold that there. But the gap actually turned out really well. I didn't make any adjustments on his measuring, so this thing came out pretty dead nuts on both sides. So this one was a little better. I was super nervous doing the first cut on the other side, so that's why it didn't look as good. But this one came out really good. Much easier, much straighter. But all right, so after cutting, this was real floppy, so I drilled a 1/4-inch hole and just got like a little plastic, one of those push-in things to hold it. Now it's tight. Did that on both sides, so that's not flopping around. That's just something that I thought you might want to know, because that's annoying if it's flopping around all the time. So tomorrow we'll go ahead and wire it, then we'll hang the swing arm, and then we'll put the camera wiring on and relocate that camera, and we'll go from there. So, you know, see you tomorrow. Morning, it's day 2. We just got to finish wiring this bumper, hanging the swing, and then I got to go get probably lug nuts to mount the spare tire on there, but we're going to get it all done today. Now it's time to install the wire loom. I had already taken and put the plastic grommets that came out of the old bumper in the new bumper. There's 4 spots for them, 1, 2, and then 3, 4 on the other side. We're going to go ahead and put that in and get the sensors pushed in there. And then we got to wire up the license plate lights, and that's what all the connectors are for. We'll get those in, and then from there we'll start on the swing arm. So put little holes in the bumper, which is good. It's going to go over there, and then I'm going to route it up through there above the hidden receiver hole there to get to your 2 sensors, and we'll just zip tie it up after we get it in there. All right, got it routed through the hole. It's just dangling up through the top there, up through the hole. Now you'll have to cut, where are they at? That's what used to be for the license plate lights, and we have these 2 wires and splice them into there. They give you little tie downs, which is nice. Right here, a little tab to zip tie that on there. I got 1 sensor in. Now these only go in one way. If you look at the back, there's a little notch. See if I can see it. Little notch right there. That lines up with the little notch on the sensor. It only goes in one way. So what I've done is I've taken and we'll get all that. Get that lined up. Did you get that lined up? It's hard to do with one hand. So basically you line those notches up and then you get it in, and then you can push it in that way. All right, got the 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we'll go on the back and splice the, which actually I could probably do out here, which make it a little bit easier. Splice the license plate lights in, and then I'll zip tie the loom all the way up and show you what it looks like when it's done. All right, I did get the wire harness plugged back in and back in its spot. What I gotta do is I gotta go turn the truck on, turn the lights on, and find out, is it blue or is it white that gives me power for my lights? Guess we'll find out. I'm gonna get a voltmeter and test it. All right, so the way I'm gonna test this is, if you go, you got your voltmeter, let me just hang this on something so we can see it. Let's see if we can see the voltmeter in the shot. We should be able to get both of them in there. So, voltmeter, volt AC, volt squiggly, volt DC is your line and dotted line. And this has an automatic setting, but I never really liked it. So I've got my lights on. If you just plug it into both of these and look for a volt, probably give you 12 no matter what. Yep, no matter which way you do it, because you're technically grounded. So what you want to do is you want to find a ground for one of these sides, a decent ground, and let's see if I got one down here, which can be anywhere on the frame. All right, so there's the wires that we're running the other license plate lights. We're going to test and find out which one's ground. I have my suspicions. I think the white one, well, I got to go turn my lights on the truck real quick because I forgot to do that. Lights are on, so I should have 12 volts to one of those leads. I'm going to test. Got my meter. It's set to 12 volts DC, or 12 volts. It's just set to voltage DC, not AC. Blue wire, we're going to test to ground. And I'm showing 12 volts. White and black wire, I'm going to test to ground. I'm not showing anything. That's our hot, that's our ground. This one goes to the red wire, this one goes to the black wire. Let's hook it up and make sure it turns on before we go ahead and finalize it with the crimpers and heat shrink. With those connected, you should see that light turn on. It works. Now let's heat shrink them up. All right, here's a tip. I do it because it makes looming and wrapping wires with electrical tape a whole lot easier. Stagger your joints, and you'll see why once we kind of get in there and do it all. But if you don't, you've got two bulky things right next to each other. If we stagger them, one's here, when they lay together, they're not next to each other. It makes it easier. You see one there, one there. It makes it easier to wrap with electrical tape and loom it. Just something I've been doing since I've been working on cars. So the reason I end up staggering these is because when you tape them together, you're looking at that profile. You're not looking at that profile. It just makes it a cleaner, nicer, and easier installation, and it's just easier. It looks better in my opinion, even though nobody's going to see it. It just looks better. And there you go. It looks a whole lot better than having this big old mass of stuff right there. Small details. All right, so now that the harness is in, those are wired up. We're going to use the little tabs that he welds on there, which is, I'm going to take a wild guess, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. This is a detail that maybe some bumper manufacturers miss. At the Helm puts these in. It's all along the swing arm for your camera. He's got a bunch of spots in here to zip tie this up, so everything should be nice and tight and not flopping around. I'm going to zip tie them all up, and I appreciate that small little detail. All right, this kit eliminates your blind spot monitoring system, which then leaves this plug on the wire harness. I'm going to go ahead and tape this up so water can't get in there, dirt can't get in there. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to help because this sits right behind the tire. It's going to get splashed up with mud and dirt. I just want to make sure that stays clean so it doesn't throw any more error codes, if it's going to throw them anyway, which I don't know if it will or not. I don't think it will until I turn it on. I'll probably get some malfunction, but We'll find out. But anyway, protect it, tape it up, get it to where, you know, you're not going to get a bunch of corrosion in there. All right, we're going to stick that right behind the sensor. Let's see if it picks it up. It definitely does. So, pull up a little bit. Let me back up a little bit and see when it starts to come in contact with it. Sensors are working. And it's sensing the camera. Nice. All right, when I painted it, I taped up the hinge spot because, you know, otherwise I have to clean it all out, get all the paint off of it, and the bearings won't fit right. So let's take that tape off and then start putting the bearing pack together. All right, so the first step is to install this little slider plate right on there so it slides smooth. And what I noticed is he got that from 4X Innovations. I don't know if you can see it, but that's where I got my rock sliders from. So nice. Oh, that just attaches with 2 screws. All right, so I've gone ahead and cleaned this with some brake clean. There's 2 bearings, one on the bottom, one on the top. They get put in there. They tell you to grease them. The bearings they use are tapered bearings, just like a regular wheel bearing. The ones he gives you are not greased, so you got to grease them. I'm going to treat these like a wheel bearing. I was taught when I was young, the best method is called the palm method, where you take your red grease, this is sticky grease, and you take a dollop of it, put it in your hand, and you just start packing it around. Working your way around the bearing. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Stuff's gonna be in the middle. It's not a clean job, but you basically pack it around and get it in all the empty spaces. And you want to pack it in that bearing. Then that way, when it turns, everything is greased and covered. And you just want to make sure that you get all that grease in there, and you kind of just keep scraping it in and scraping it in, and pack it in that little lip that's right there, and then it starts squirting out your bearing side. So once you get that nice and covered, then you can go ahead and pop it in. And this being sticky grease, it's going to stick in there while I pack the other one. I probably should have greased this up as well before I put that bearing in there. So I'm going to grease that up. Move this bearing to the other side. And then we're going to pack and grease this side up. It's not going to hurt to put too much grease in there. So, 2 bearings packed. Get those in. The next step is going to be to put the seals in. But I got to clean my hands before I put the seals in. I'm going to put a little more grease on the top and the bottom because these seals have a gap in the back. It'll just help longevity. We'll see. We're going to have to tap those in with a hammer and a socket. Yep, I'm going to have to. Let me go get my hammer. So, got myself a socket that happens to be an inch and something. What does it say on there? 1.25 inches? Sure, sounds right. Anyway, you want it to sit on the metal part, not the rubber part. And just gently tap it in until it's flush. Flush or just inside. I got it just inside. Bearing still turns free in there. Do the other one. Ooh, I almost tapped the other bearing out. That could have been disastrous, because that would have made that dirty. There we go. The seals are in. Wipe off the excess grease from the outside. Then on this side too. And now I believe it's time to try and set it in there. If it is, according to the instructions, insert is shown below. Yep, that's done. Wants me to install the spring latch now. Oh, then we insert the carrier, then we install the spring latch. Alright, let me get this cleaned up and tailgate closed, and we'll get that thing up there. Alright, now, before you take it up there, I got these things stuck there because it seals good. These little races are on the bolt that he supplies that goes through here and threads down. These have to be inserted into the bearings and pushed in best you can before it goes on. Then these will slide in between here, and then you drop your bolt down and tighten it down because he has a nut welded down the bottom. Get a drink of my go-go juice. Pick this guy up. Pick it up from the other side, because that would make more sense. You know, pick it up from the front so you can actually maneuver it. And it should, technically. That fit is perfect. So you gotta try and get that bolt to drop in, and then you gotta keep going. Oop. This is the part that's gonna suck. That's close. There it goes. Will it hold it for now? Probably. That's what they say, probably having a friend helps out, because now I can try and get that to line up with the hole down below. I think it's there. We'll get a socket to tighten that. Hold on. Aha, there we go. See what size that is. This is 1 1/8 is what that is. Lift up a little bit while you're threading it. It makes it a whole lot easier. Threading in there? Well, it's threading in there, so let's just get this threaded. Okay, that's kind of tight. I'll probably tighten it more. Let's see what the play is on this. A little bit. Let's tighten a little bit more. Doesn't have a torque spec, so I'm gonna give it all the torques. Many as I can give. So there's the hitch. Oh, that turned out nice. Swings nice. There's no play up and down. Hell yeah. Now I just gotta put the little pin in, the latch, and the camera. Alright, so the latch itself is fully adjustable. Back and forth. Back and forth. So wherever you want it, and it's going to go right up against there. That's going to bolt on there, back and forth, and this is going to bolt on there, back and forth, and it's going to latch in. Get it bolted on. Also, I'm going to note, all this stuff is nylock, so that's another good thing. Like, little details that ATH has thought of that just make this a little bit more quality, I think, at least in my opinion. I haven't really built with anything else, but correct me if I'm wrong, if the other manufacturers are using nylocks and using grade 8 hardware, which this is all grade 8 hardware. I mean, other than the screws or the little bolts that hold on your license plate lights, everything is grade 8 hardware. It's all nylocked. It's all built to last and not come loose. So, again, ATH just did a really good job with this and all the hardware. Let me go get the right tool. Just gonna give it a little snug. Top 2. Three. I don't know if this is in frame. Hoping it is. And this one just tight enough to where I can still slide it. There, sure. Too tight. There, this can slide and this can move. So we're going to take this, open it up, we're going to close it, put that in there, then we're going to latch it. Start there. Take that out. So I got that one down, it's a little further in. I'm going to give it a little tap. Let's bring it up. Call it right there. If that's too much, we'll know right away. Tighten that one. Tighten this one. Now we get to tighten the other guy on the latch side because he's got to be in the right spot too. I don't feel like that's going to be tight enough. I mean, it feels tight enough. Got a pretty good snap in it. Maybe I'll tap it in just a little bit more, see if I can get it just a little bit tighter. Trial and error. Mostly a lot of error. Sorry for my head. Little tap, tap, tappy. Tighten her up again. That's a better latch, I feel like. We're also going to move this to right there. There we go. Now let's get that tight. I guess I want to see it strikes. This little piece back here strikes. I'll show you when I get this all tight. Actually, I'll tighten up. So what it's doing is the striker is actually striking right here. Let's see, can you see that? Is that focusing? So yeah, this little piece is hitting the back of this, which that's what's holding it. So I think over time we might have to adjust it as it wears out, but there's still plenty of adjustment in that to make it go back more. So I think we're good. It's nice and solid. I'm going to tighten that up, and then I guess we'll start working on the camera. Remove the torque screws that hold this on. We'll get that out. Locate camera, unclip wiring harness, unclip fasteners holding. So go ahead and do that. And then it has you put the camera on this bracket right here. There's some self-drilling. Well, they're not self-drilling. He gave us nuts and bolts, which is better than what his instructions say. So we're going to put those on here, mounted in here, and then this is where you've got differences. 5 to 15, 2016 plus. So your second gen, your third gen, and then that should, then you got to run a wire, which he did supply extra, because I guess what he said is the camera comes in right here, and normally most people do a passenger side swing out, so it only has to run that far to get to the hinge. Mine is going to have to run all the way along and then all the way along. So he did supply extra wire for this particular application, which is great. He supplied wire and loom. Awesome. Camera is right there. Now I guess I pull it out. I gotta see if there's gonna be a blanking plate to kind of cover that up. My guess is it's probably not, but also I think it might be. We'll see what it does when it comes out, because if I have to get, well, that looks like it's one, feels like it's one piece on the tailgate, so we might not have to do anything with that, but we'll take a look once we get that out of there. 2 bolts, and then unclip that. All right, so that wire harness for the camera goes from there. It's clipped there. I don't know if you'll see it, but it clips. Where's the hole? It clips through there, and then this one actually you have to unclip it from the truck side. You actually have to unclip it from the truck side and pull it out just the way this grommet works, and then fish it through, and then you can connect it and run it underneath so it's not running in this little area here. Just, you know, again, a detail. You probably could have just hooked it up right there and ran it over, but I'm going to run it underneath the truck all the way over till the hinge, and we'll go from there. Okay, a couple things I noticed while taking this wire harness apart. I took it completely apart, and I'm glad I did for a couple reasons. This is the side that comes out of the truck chassis. It has double loom, so glad I didn't try to cut that somewhere. That would have been a pain in the butt. Also, there's really 2 cables in here. There's this twisted pair, this blue and white, and there's a shielded. I wouldn't want to cut that and strip that because it'd be a pain in the butt to do that on more than what I have to. So what I am going to do is, it looks like it's up here on the other connection. If I strip it back, I'm going to go back somewhere in here. I'm going to try and make all my connections down here and kind of hide them behind here. Try and get them to, depending on the length, if I can stagger them enough, great. I might have to 2 stack them, because there looks like there is a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wires. So we'll see how that goes, because we're going to basically stack them up 6 wires each, and I've got a, looks like a 6 wire there and a 4 wire there. So I'm wondering if that's the difference between second and third gen, or just the type of camera you get. 4 wire, 6 wire. This is a 6 wire, so we're gonna attempt to make some really good connections, and I guess I'm gonna try and connect them underneath there. You know what, I might just, that's good. I'm gonna try and make all the connections here, and then we'll make the connections here after the fact.
All right, now when you're making these connections, you want to make sure you stagger those joints so they're not directly next to each other. Kind of, if you've got like 6 wires, take like a 6-inch section and, you know, stagger them to where when you tape them, those connections aren't right next to each other. Because if you do, you're never going to get them to kind of look good in that loom, and they're just not going to fit.
Make sure you get yourself some extra ones of these, because I crimped one And it basically, these wires are really thin. If you don't get a good crimp and you kind of tug on it, it pulls out, you can't get the wire back in there. So make sure you have some extra red shrink wraps or shrinkable butt connectors, heat shrinkable butt connectors. So in case you do what I did, you got some extras. I've had to use 2 extras so far.
Now make sure you leave yourself enough space on that harness to go one way or the other, because you're going to have to do it at the camera side and at the truck harness side. So cut that thing kind of in the middle, and that way you know you have enough on each end to stagger all your joints and make sure it looks good and make sure it fits in there nice.
Looming this wire sucks. And I know there's a trick, but I can't do that because I got clips on the end. So, yeah. All right, now I'm putting a lot of stock in the fact that I did this right. I'm gonna plug it in, kind of route it where it needs to go without zip tying it, and see if it works. Wish me luck. Black end goes in here. And then this will run along and get zip tied onto these little tabs. And then I'm gonna run it through the top of the bumper here, I guess. And down. See, I can grab it from underneath. Up here. Come here, connector. Get the connector through there. Right through. So I'm actually going to run it above this. I'm probably going to zip tie it to the, I don't know if you can see it, I'll probably zip tie it to the tail light wire harness, and then it goes all the way over to there. So I'm going to plug it in and we'll see if it works. Plugged in. So we'll just run along. Yeah, we'll run it along that whole wire harness right there. So plugged in. I'm going to run along the wire harness for the tail lights, up and around and in, and then make sure it's not binding up in there when we open and close the door for the swing arm. All right, let's go see if the camera works. Started. Wait for it to say Toyota. I'll wait for it to stop saying Toyota. Yeah. I'll obey the traffic laws. Reverse. Camera's working. That makes me happy. Camera works. Now I just gotta zip tie it. Okay, let's get the spare tire mounted. These bolts match the same threads that are on the axles. So I just got some standard little, acorn guys to mount this for now, and then we'll get some locking lugs, get those ordered, and when they come in, we'll put them on. The other thing is they only sell them in 4, so I have to get a set of 5, which chances are I'm going to have to order those from somewhere anyway. But let's put this up. All right, let's get that tight. Oh, this one? Oh, this one? That one. All right there, okay. That makes sense. So depending on what aftermarket wheels and tires I go with, and I'll show you in a second, might have to get a spacer or some type of spacer for this. So the reason I say you might need a spacer is because the tire is kind of pushed up against the bar there and on the other side, which, I mean, it's stable, it's on there, but maybe a little bit wider or a different offset will probably push that out a little bit, because that's what most people do. That's probably what I'll do, is get a different offset it'll push it out and it won't be as bad. I don't think that's going to hurt anything. Well, another project done. Total took 6 hours. But here it is. The ATH Fabrication high clearance bumper installed on the Tacoma. There's a couple differences in what you had to order when you ordered it. You can go right there, you can order it. The standard side is to have it swing out from the passenger side and swing out this way. We changed that to have it swing out to the driver's side. And the reason we did that is because the awning comes over from the passenger side. But also, the way I built this, my kitchen's here, and if it swung out the passenger side, it would be blocking this whole area, and I would feel very claustrophobic. I'm also going to hang a propane can on this to be able to run this. So it worked out almost perfectly. That's why we went with the driver's side. Now with it open, I'm going to show you a couple things that we got. The bumper comes standard with places to put some backup lights. Pretty much everyone will fit in there. It came with new license plate lights. I did opt for the hidden receiver hitch, so it's not hanging down a little bit lower. I am getting a new license plate, so there are magnets that will hold this down and keep it from flopping. I also had to get the camera relocation, and this is one of the only things, in fact this is the only thing that I think could use maybe a little work, or the only thing that kind of seems a little, I don't want to say, I think it could have been done a little bit better. This camera relocation key leaves this camera pretty exposed. It would have been nice to have something that maybe came over it, just something to kind of encase this, whether it's a snap-on, a little piece of plastic, maybe something that's 3D printed, I don't know, something that might bolt on there. But that, I'm going to put some silicone in there just to seal that up. And then the same thing over here on the front. It's just very exposed, and maybe just have like a cowl that would bolt on there that would kind of shield it from a little bit of rain, you know, on the sides. Just something. That's all. That is the absolute only thing on this entire carrier that, like I said, would be, you know, would need something a little more, I think. Other than that, this thing is great. It's very well built. The hinge is massive. It's got a lock, so it locks out 90. Let me pick it up, and you can pull it out a little bit further. Let's see if I can do it with one hand. Probably not. Nope, it's stuck. And we're going to look at the tire real quick. It's got 2 lock positions. It swings out a little bit further than 90. It'll swing out and lock at 90, and then it also obviously swings all the way in and has a tension latch on it, and this thing is solid. It is sturdy. Can't say it enough. ATH, thank you. This thing is a beast. It mounts up really well. Your instructions are great. Everybody go check them out. I'm not sponsored by them, affiliated with them at all. I didn't get any deal to make this video. I didn't get anything to even say how much I liked it, but all the details, I mean, you saw in there, grade 8 hardware, all nylock nuts. A lot of thought went into this, and it shows. So go check them out. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more Tacoma content, like, subscribe, comment if you want. Let me know what I did wrong. Let me know what you would have done better. But other than that, thanks for watching. Y'all have a good one.